Right now, misinformation spreads faster than facts, especially on the most sensitive global stories. NVP uses uncensored AI analysis to verify the most controversial topics and separate signal from propaganda in real time. Instead of guessing who to trust, you can see structured verification and analysis behind every major issue. Hello everyone, welcome back to another live stream, and thank you so much for tuning in to another show. So the United States and Israel decided to escalate the war of aggression against Iran to a completely different level, where now you can perhaps start to call it a total war or an all-out war, because the boundaries that the American-Israeli side is constantly crossing guarantees a fiercer response coming from Iran. And today, they targeted the world's largest gas field in the world. This is joined by Iran and Qatar. The strike was an American-Israeli strike. Now, before we continue, we need to understand very well here. Some people talk about that Israel actually carried out some strikes without the knowledge of the United States, this game that they play. Oh, they attacked without my consent, I attacked without their consent, and they're not really happy with this constant game that the American administration and the Zionist regime play, the Epstein and Zionist regime. Both of them were in this together. As a matter of fact, this was confirmed in Israel. One of the main Israeli media outlets said that the gas attack was closed between Trump and Netanyahu, and that they were preparing for a response, and the response came and is coming as we speak too, when Iran already warned them from the repercussions of this attack, and Israel is preparing for the fact that Iran would want to damage its national infrastructure. The irony and the thing that is beginning to unravel now is the fact that there are internal voices within Israel that are criticizing what's happening now. And if we take as an example, this article that I just shared with you, look at the comments that the people are posting. Yeah, there are split views about the comments, how many likes, how many dislikes. Quote, for example, the first one: two aging, irresponsible serial liars, megalomaniacs have taken over the world and supporting each other, and the idiots are applauding them. That's Israel. What is this regret? It's Bibi after all. He won't take responsibility for the disasters he's leading anyway. Bibi is entangling Israel with the whole world, including the United States. Another guy said, not only will the Iranians not rebel, referencing to the desires of Netanyahu and Trump and the calls for the people to rebel, he said they will begin to hate those who damage Iran's infrastructure. The more the regime pushes against the wall, the more it will escalate the damage to the infrastructure of the Gulf. Two lunatics, in reference to Netanyahu and Trump, or those rightfully persecuted by the legal system, are waging war. Another one said, a country in complete madness, and it's unbelievable that there are those who support these measures until destruction comes upon us. These are the comments coming from Israel on Israel's mainstream media, following these attacks that were conducted by the United States and Israel. And of course, some videos were coming out about these attacks, and it was confirmed that it indeed caused a lot of damage to the facilities. Now, in relation to the gas fields themselves, we're talking about the gas fields called the Southern Pars gas facility, and the part that belongs to Qatar is Qatar's North Field, and it's in the middle between the two countries. The biggest, the largest gas field in the whole world, and people rely on it globally, not just in the region, which shows you how reckless these people are. I mean, we're talking about two absolute lunatics for conducting these attacks against Iran and against this largest gas facility. After that, immediately, Iran published this notice here. Urgent warning to multiple locations, and all of these locations are in the Gulf, and we're going to talk about the damage, and I'm going to share the videos that came in relation to that. Jubail Petrochemicals in Saudi Arabia, Al Hisn in the UAE, the petrochemical Msaid that belongs to Chevron, and by the way, most of them have shares with Chevron and ExxonMobil. Some of them have with Shell and other international companies too. But Iran knew very well what it was targeting. And then Ras Al Fan in Qatar as well. So the response was immediate from Iran, and there were multiple warnings as well immediately after that attack. One of these warnings came from none other than the spokesperson of the Khatam al-Anbiya HQ, who is in charge of the clarifications to do with the military operations, what Iran does, and what they continue to do in terms of military operations. Let's listen to what he had to say following these attacks, and then we will go through the Iranian retaliation following this, and of course the global implications, because we're talking about a new phase. And what else is there after this? Is there another path of escalation? Is there another line that hasn't been crossed? We will talk about that after we listen to what he had to say.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. ماشین جنگی آمریکایی صهیونی که با رشادت دلاورمردان ایران اسلامی در تیر ماه متوقف شد، اکنون در مسیر فروپاشی قرار گرفته است. همانطور که گفته شد، اقدامی که از سوی ما انجام می شود رسما اعلام می گردد. این هشدار قاطع و خط و نشان برای جنایتکارانی است که تعرض به بخشی از زیرساخت‌های سوخت و انرژی ایران در جنوب کشور داشتند. در نتیجه این اقدام زیرساخت‌های سوخت، انرژی و گاز مبدأ تهاجم در اولین فرصت در آتش می‌سوزد و به خاکستر تبدیل می‌شود. به ارتش بزدل و متجاوز آمریکایی جنایتکار و رژیم وحشی و کودک‌کش صهیونیستی اعلام می‌کنیم. ناگزیر هستید سربازانتان را به آب انداخته و حیثیتتان را به باد بدهید. گلوی فرماندهان و سربازان شما زیر چکمه رزمندگان اسلام است. در سردرگمی راهبردی پیش رویتان واقعیت جریان صحنه نبرد مشخص است. به رخدادهای اعجاب‌انگیز فکر کنید. با سناریوی پیروزی آمدید، در حالی که در اتاقهای فکر زیرزمینی و مخفی به دنبال راهکار حفظ و بقای خود می‌گردید. دوران قلدری شما تمام شده است. تنها پناه شما برای گریختن از ضربات عملیات کوبنده ایران مقتدر خروج از منطقه یا انتخاب مرگ است. و من نصر الا من عند الله العزیز الحکیم.
Very powerful and straightforward coming from the spokesperson of the HQ of Khatam al-Anbiya in charge of the military operations that Iran conducts against this aggression, especially with two of the sentences that he mentioned, by the way. The fact that he said that we will turn your assets into ashes, that's number one. And the second thing is you withdraw or you die. So in essence, what we have here is a situation where the United States and Israel are pushing Iran into a more robust response, more determination against them, more resistance, more fierceness, more keenness on completely expelling the United States from the region, something they already, by the way, have declared, but now it's going to be even more with determination, heightened determination to completely expel them and get them out of the region. because the situation now stopped being about Iran having a response, and this response needs to take its course. And after that, you know, maybe the United States will de-escalate and what have you. Not at all. Now we have a situation where Iran is conducting an operation to completely get the United States out of the region once and for all, without any hesitation, without any reluctance. And the United States and Israel are facing these types of people who resist them now, people who are absolutely keen on expelling them and getting them completely out of the region. So the response came fairly quickly, and there were a couple of videos about these responses. Some of them came from Saudi Arabia, of course, the oil fields in that region, oil or gas fields, by the way, both were attacked, and there were confirmed reports of landings and videos of the landings too, with these attacks coming from Iran. That was in Saudi Arabia. This was one of them here. That was one of the videos, of course. Then there were other videos of the damage. These were more videos from Saudi Arabia. Let's have a look at them. And there are, of course, more videos as well in relation to these attacks in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, shit! Oh, Ray! Oh my God! अब यार भाग क्यों रहे हो? Oh! Oh shit! अब यार किसमें किधर गिरा? अरे वहाँ गिरा सामने तो गिरा और किधर गिरा? इधर गिरा। अरे शाला!
These were the attacks, of course, that landed in Saudi Arabia. Another video that came out from the Saudi Arabia attack. So as we can see, confirmed landings and substantial damage coming following these Iranian attacks. Now, officially, Saudi Arabia confirmed that it intercepted 4 out of the 5 attacks. That didn't appear to be the case. The second attack was on the in the Qatari territories in the Ras Laffan. As Iran confirmed, everything that was mentioned in the Iranian warning has been targeted. Whether it was in Saudi Arabia and Qatar or in the UAE, there were also attacks against assets today, reports in Bahrain too. This was against the Ras Laffan. So that was the attack in Qatar. So in effect now, the Gulf is burning. And with it, of course, the global economy will start to slowly feel more impact coming from these attacks. And again, you know, some people will say, well, why did they target these locations? Well, Iran already told all of them initially. Iran told every neighboring country, as they were talking with the United States, that in case we are attacked, we will be attacking those bases because they are used against us. Unfortunately, some of the Arab governments in the region are still denying to this day the fact that their countries have been used with these aggressions against Iran and its people, killing innocent civilians, killing the supreme leader, crossing all red and black lines to do with Iran. But the fact of the matter is the evidence is stronger than the claims. And the evidence suggests that these bases were used, there was deployment, there were attacks being conducted. And in many cases, the attacks were actually recorded. And Iran even said that the source was so-and-so. Then we later started to have slips of the fact that, well, yeah, they are actually being used against Iran. Therefore, Iran has to have a counterattack against them. And that is what's happening. Plus, these are American assets that we're talking about. And they didn't necessarily want to take it that far, Iran. That's why this is another thing we need to remember here. Iran didn't go that far up until they were attacked. So it's important to note that there are other escalations coming from Iran, by the way, should they want to escalate even further. And that has been declared. That has been declared by the head of the Iranian parliament, Mohammad Baqir Qalibaf, who said last night the people of Iran foiled all the enemy's designs. They are angry and frustrated with the people of Iran by attacking infrastructure, seek to conceal their battlefield defeats. Of course, this amounts to suicide for them. An eye for an eye equation is in effect, and a new level of confrontation has begun. So we are officially talking about a new phase here. Again, Israel is trying to assassinate more leading figures like the head of the Basij, like Ali Larijani, who were martyred. One of them was the head of the intelligence. But the fact of the matter is these people weren't necessarily taking extra measures. They were walking in the streets, unlike their enemies. They were with their people, between their people. Because from their perspective, the biggest red line has been crossed in the form of the assassination of the supreme leader, who had a spiritual role. He was a spiritual father figure for Iran and many people. And from their perspective, they're willing to sacrifice too. As a matter of fact, if you listen to any Iranian official, they say, well, I'm ready for that. And that's something that their enemies clearly, the Epstein Zionist cartel, they clearly don't understand until now. Probably they might understand, because what we're seeing now is just more resistance and more fierceness coming from Iran. Even in Israel, they were talking about the fact how they were worried who's going to come, for example, after Ali Larijani. And they know that these things, they don't end the conflict, but they only escalate further against them. Now, what kind of additional escalation can happen after this? So far, Iran destroyed so many of the American bases in the region. I mean, this was the before, these were some of the before and after images of the Iranian attacks on some of the American assets in the region. You can see the level of destruction with evidence. You know, nothing is hidden here. All of these are American assets in the region. The level of destruction is unprecedented. The United States has already faced a hit it has never faced before in its entire history. The American army wasn't hit this bad ever in that manner with that level of asset damage in its entire history. What else can they do after this? Where are things going to go? Well, number one, Iran is responding severely. So if we want to judge the attack itself, by the way, Iran is saying eye for an eye. But really and truly, it's about 2 or 3 handful of eyes for an eye, what Iran is doing in terms of response. Because from their perspective, they want to inflict enough damage and pain on the American and Israeli terrorists so that they learn that they can never attack Iran again. And they will be imposing a new equation. But before that equation, what other paths of escalation remain after this? That is the biggest question. Well, one of them is the oil, because there's a difference between gas and oil, you see. The gas field is the biggest gas field in the world, but the impact on global economy wouldn't be as severe as the attack or an attack on Khark Island's oil fields and all of Iran's oil fields. Why? Because there's more dependence on oil. There are other gas hubs too. This will undoubtedly have some damage, of course. And Iran's retaliation against both oil and gas fields will make an impact, but not to the same level that an attack on the oil fields will have. Now, the argument from the American and Israeli side so far is we don't want Iran to think that they can continue to export oil and we're sitting here suffering, so we want to make them suffer. And what do? They attack another joint and the largest gas field, joint between Qatar and Iran. Again, the same Qatar that its officials are condemning Iran, but only calling Israel's actions irresponsible, when they're being attacked by their supposed allies who they give billions to. So the argument of condemnation towards Iran from these countries is becoming weaker and weaker with time. It's as if some figures in these establishments aren't willing to accept the fact that they have been partially part of the problem. And there will not be any solution so long as they can't understand that and come to terms with it, so they can solve it and reach a new solution. So that would increase it even more. However, what the American and Israeli sides are not really calculating is the fact that the Iranian response cannot necessarily be measured. So we already had statements coming from the American side and from some in the Israeli establishment that they didn't expect Iran to have this much of an attack. In Israel, they're concealing the level of damage. Only now we're finding out that 3 airplanes were totaled in the Ben Gurion airport last week from one of the Iranian attacks, an attack that was very carefully and heavily censored by Israel. And that makes you think, well, what else are they hiding and what type of damage? And if that is Ben Gurion airport, and this happened simultaneously with the confirmation of Israel that there will be no departures for approximately 10 days up until the 21st. I was back approximately around the 11th of March or just a couple of days after. If Iran managed to destroy airplanes in Israel, and Israel is now releasing this information, and we're talking about the Ben Gurion airport that hundreds of thousands of people can see and record, then what was the damage to the Israeli military bases? What was the damage to the Israeli officials? Why is Benjamin Netanyahu posting fake videos day after day? Why is Ben Gvir posting fake videos day after day? Why did Benjamin Netanyahu's son supposedly have a 7-day break as if it's a mourning period for someone who died according to their beliefs. What else are they hiding? If that's what happened in the Ben Gurion airport, I'm pretty confident that the level of damage that the Israeli terror bases sustained was very similar to the American terror bases damage in the Gulf countries. There is no reason to believe that the damage was less, especially seeing as in terms of Israel, there are attacks not only coming from Iran, but also from the Lebanese resistance. The Lebanese resistance launched some of its longer range missiles today, reaching Gaza almost. The occupied Escalation area. And what were the people of Gaza saying? They were saying, thank God, no one in Gaza condemns the missiles that Hezbollah launches, even if they reach Gaza and even if they land in Gaza. Because they understand the bigger picture. Whereas some other people want to continue living in their delusions and in their state of being in denial without really addressing the root cause of the problem, which is there at least some level of complicity in what's happening against Iran, especially because many of these attacks were conducted against Iran from these countries. Now, there are reports that they're having a meeting now. There are several meetings taking place. There's a summit supposedly in Saudi Arabia. Multiple figures are going to come from the Arab and Muslim world to this summit, and they're going to talk about the situation. They're going to talk about the situation. They're going to try and find some answers or solutions. Now, they didn't confirm if Iran was there, but there were reports that the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi spoke with the prime ministers of Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan, to whom he clarified that Iran will be responding severely to all of these things happening. What are we expecting from this summit? Well, we need to understand a couple of things about summits to do with the Arab countries and the Arab Gulf states and the so-called Arab League before we continue. These summits are not independent summits. In many cases, these summits don't go outside of the border drawn by the Americans, whether it's an American official in the embassy or the American foreign secretary or whatever it is. They don't go outside of that scope. And we can clearly see many of the Arab and Muslim establishments never go outside of the scope of the American side. When the United States wants jihad, they will declare jihad in Afghanistan. When they want to declare another toppling of another Arab or Muslim government, they will declare jihad and start also, sectarian talk against them. But when it comes to Israel, or God forbid, good old America, they're not sure. They're not sure. They start talking to each other. So chances are, if it doesn't go to the real demands of the United States, by the way, which is their participation according to the desires of Israel, and they have been restraining themselves from participating. I mean, it's already shameful as it is to have even this conversation and talking about it. That's already a shameful position, But there were already several clarifications coming that they're not going to be participating, which indicates that they are going against what Donald Trump really wants or is pushed to demand from them based on the fake Netanyahu, or whoever it is running the genocidal colony now, the apartheid colony, and giving Donald Trump instructions. Option two, so that's quite unlikely. Even if they try and wave the card, for example, the defense pact with Pakistan. Like Saudi Arabia has a defense pact with Pakistan. Pakistan is a nuclear country. Both of them know very well the price that both of them will be paying should they even think about an idea of targeting Iran. And again, it's shameful enough as it is for some imbeciles to even entertain that idea and not be on the side of resistance against the most evil, barbaric powers on earth. Child traffickers, pedophiles, child murderers, butchers, genocidal psychopaths. It's already shameful as it is. But there's a second option. And that second option is, and that's something that some figures in some of the Arab establishments were speaking about, is to activate a treaty between the countries to have a joint defense mechanism without relying on the United States of America. Now that is a long shot. Why? Because they're already stuck in a situation. Their lack of strategic thinking, their lack of thinking outside the box, the fact that they thought that they would be getting away with everything and the fire wouldn't come to their doors, the fact that they did all of these things and they were indulging in these lavish projects and all of these things that they're doing made them completely blind to the fact that they're actually naked. Because whoever is trying to protect himself with the evil empire is completely naked. Iran has proven that now. All of their arms are American, their defense systems are American, and because they had those agreements with the United States and everything was tied with the United States, which meant it was also tied with Israel, they didn't diversify. The lack of diversification, and we're talking primarily about the Gulf states here, put them in a very weak position, which means that, number one, America failed miserably here in defending its so-called allies, if we don't want to call them anything else. There are, of course, exceptions in the Arab world. The Egyptian army is different than the Saudi armies and the other Arab armies, for example, in the region. Algeria, other countries are different. But we're talking about the Gulf here primarily. So the second option, the other option would be for them to start thinking about a strategy where they can actually get out of this situation without fully relying on the United States of America and start diversifying and purchasing some defense systems, perhaps from Russia or China or any other country. Because with the kingdoms or the establishments, most of them are kingdoms, their main aim is primarily to preserve their power. That is the main aim, to remain there. And there is a lot to do with the United States administration here. So if they want a real change, we're talking about them getting out of the, what we label as the obedience house, being obedient to the American administration. That would require creativity, communication with multiple countries. And there is one very easy way out of it, by the way. And that way is to be on the side of Iran and have your own independence. The only thing that can defend these countries from Iran is Iran, by Iran not attacking American assets because they agreed to position American assets and bases in their regions that are used not only to target Iran, but also other Arab and Muslim countries next to them. Should, of course, the American administration so desire. They'll send armies to Syria, they'll send armies to Afghanistan, they'll send anywhere that the United States wants. But when it comes to Israel, we'll start talking about being reasonable, preferring the language of diplomacy, trying to reach a solution, being realistic. We'll start to have all of these coated terminologies so they can justify their abhorrent positions in being complicit with the situation that's happening. So they're in a tough situation. They're in a very tough situation. However, as things are happening now, as far as things are going now, it is very unlikely, it's not a likely scenario that any of them would even think of going against Iran, because that's what Iran is doing already. And Iran is practicing a lot of restraint, by the way. The level of restraint that Iran has now is beyond what anyone thinks. And the fact that they had this attack this quickly, and this attack happened after they gave the ultimatum, that clearly shows the Iranian capabilities and the Iranian power, and the fact that they're practicing restraint. Now, Iran also published the missiles that they attacked these assets with in what was the 63rd wave of operations, striking US-linked oil facilities in the region in retaliation for attacks on Iran's oil facilities. Let's have. So these were the missiles that were used by Iran against these oil and gas assets of the United States in the region. And with this attack, let's see what was the damage before. There were a couple of articles being published about the level of damage and disruptions that happened so far, up until now. So we're not talking about post this attack. Sources told Reuters that Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporter, has cut its oil production by 2 million barrels per day to about 8 million barrels after reducing output from 2 major offshore fields. Saudi Arabia also halted production at the Ras Tanura refinery, which has a production capacity of 550,000 barrels per day. That is one of them. And we're talking about international companies. For example, French oil major Total Energies told investors on March the 12th that it had lost 15% of its production across the Middle East due to production outages in countries including Qatar and Iraq, as well as offshore areas of the UAE. Sources reported that daily oil production from the UAE, the third largest oil producer in OPEC, has fallen by more than a half. The Abu Dhabi National Oil Company shut down the Ruwais refinery, which has a production capacity of 922,000 barrels per day. and the Fujairah export port was subject to repeated attacks. Iraq also faced substantial damage. It's OPEC's second largest oil producer, and it has cut production from its main southern oil fields by 70% to just 1.3 million barrels per day from 4.3. 1.3 from 4.3. Then Kuwait Petroleum Corporation reduced its oil production and declared force majeure on March 7th. Qatar halted operations at its liquefied natural gas facilities on March the 2nd, affecting some of the world's largest plants and a supplier of approximately 20% of global LNG. Bahrain's Babco Energies declared as well force majeure on March 9th following an attack targeting its Sitra refinery, which has a production capacity of 380,000 barrels per day. That's the damage. So we are talking about substantial levels of damage sustained so far, and you can see where things are going to. So even if the IEA would want to release, for example, 400 million barrels of oil, that's going to be like, having a wrap on your wound. It's not going to stop the bleeding. It's not going to stop the damage. It's not going to stop further damage. And that is with Iran being restrained. Imagine if Iran said, that's it. I'm not going to hold myself back now, and I'm going to actually start targeting everything. So that's the damage that they're talking about in terms of oil for the American financial assets here after the American military assets. And we can see the level, of course, damage of the American military assets. They're completely destroying every single base, and they're continuing to destroy it even afterwards. So you may ask now, well, what will Iran do after this? What will Iran's situation be like after this war finishes? What will be the situation with the Hormuz Strait? Now we're talking about an all-out war. Iran views this as a war on its existence. That's why they have a fierce response, a fierce and measured response. Calculated. They were planning for this day for a very long time. Iran might actually start charging fees for everything that passes through the Hormuz Strait. Listen to a recent suggestion that was reported and made by this gentleman.
Talking about leveling a tax, a toll on ships. In normal times, about $2 billion worth of goods pass through a Strait of Hormuz every day. So if you have a 10% toll, that would be $200 million. That would bring Iran about $73 billion a year. And that would be enough to offset the illegal sanctions that the country is going through. That would be enough to pay for damages after a few years. I think damages are quite extensive. So it wouldn't be able to pay for all the damages in the first year, but eventually it will pay for the damages. So Iran is not going back to the old days of just suffering under sanctions while others benefit from the oil wealth in this part of the world. That's, I think, a decision that has been made. The country's leader mentioned this in the statement that he released the other day, that the Strait of Hormuz will be closed.
So Iran, in essence, will emerge out of this more powerful and more rich. Let's not forget that they are still selling oil. They are still exporting oil. The Strait of Hormuz is open. It's just shut for anyone who has ties with the United States and Israel. US and Israel, anyone who has ties with them. But apart from that, it's open. And Iran told them, the IRGC said, if you are tied with them, for example, and you want it to be open to you, simply expel the Israeli and American ambassadors from your region. Now, the United States is saying that we want to go all out. Some people, Donald Trump is saying, that they want to control the Strait of Hormuz. He is so mad about NATO and these supposed allies. At one point, he said, we might not need that region, that oil, and there's an argument that we shouldn't be there. Then he's saying, we don't need any help. They should have helped us, but we don't need any help. We're going to do the job ourselves. 1 to 5,000 Marines. Imagine that, thinking that you can send 5,000 Marines to Iran. Of course, all of them for the sake of Israel. Let's remember that. The people who are already deployed are not going. What are they talking about? There was fire damage on the USS Gerald R. Ford. Who caused that fire? Is it an accident? So we have clogged toilets before. Some of the Marines shoved their clothes in the toilets to clog them up. They had to resort to Crete to try and fix it. And then there's a fire. And 2 are wounded. And where is the fire? Where did the fire begin? In the laundry room. Now, how can fires start in the laundry rooms? Usually they begin in kitchens or something. Why in the laundry room? Well, because in the laundry room, if you have a lighter with you, there are a lot of clothes there. And one thing for sure is that they're going to burn. They're going to burn pretty damn quickly too. Assuming this wasn't an attack, and mind you, no one said that they actually did attack USS Gerald R. Ford in the Red Sea. And by the way, we're talking about all of this, and Yemen still hasn't entered the game. So they still have a bit of leeway in the Red Sea so far. Why? Because there are stages. From Iran's perspective, Iran still holds a lot of cards. So those spewing the Zionist Epstein propaganda, they don't realize that the facts are evident on the ground. Everyone can see them. What will they do when the Gulf of Aden and Bab el-Mandeb is shut? They think that we reached the... No, there's a lot more cards to play. And because there was no attack against it, or a declared attack, so a claimed responsibility, there is more reason to believe that actually there was internal sabotage. Again, Trump's director of counterterrorism doesn't resign for no reason, citing Israeli pressure to go to the war, saying that his wife was killed due to a war that was primarily for Israel. And people are listening. It's not only that people are listening to the streets, they can see for themselves. You can go on your mobile, whether you're on the USS Gerald R. Ford or any other aircraft carrier, know what's happening. You can see how your political leadership is, or you can see that your president is being unconstitutional, not going to the Congress, is operating against international law, is being blackmailed. Because according to the Epstein files, he raped little girls and participated in this ring of Epstein with all of the child trafficking and evil satanic rituals and cannibalism and maiming. That's their president. And they're going to war with Iran because Israel, the owner of Epstein, is holding the cards against him. And by the way, you might think, well, what if Netanyahu's dead? Who's blackmailing him? Then it doesn't matter. Netanyahu isn't like all of Israel. Netanyahu is a part of Israel. He's a pretty close representation of what Israel really is. But Israel and the Zionist project is bigger than him at the end of the day. So if it was these people who Donald Trump was planning to send to go and die for Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, young American people who were misled, but who were actually think that they're going actually to serve their country, protect their nation, they're realizing that actually, hold on a second, that is not the case. We're talking about a different reality. There's something different happening here. And chances are that is not gonna work with Donald Trump. So, well, what is the exit? Where is the exit? What is gonna happen here? And will someone else try and send forces? They tried that. Who did they try with? They tried with one of the biggest prospects, some of the armed groups in Kurdistan, and that failed miserably. It didn't work properly. That failed with the Arab countries so far, despite the fact that Iran is doing this now to assets in these countries that have any ties to the United States of America. And it's not looking like Donald Trump would be able to get a coalition with him to a level where he's saying that, you know what, I don't need a coalition. Then what is the solution? The solution is for them to climb down the ladder. The solution is for one side to surrender. And guess what? That side will not be Iran. Israel can try and conceal as much damage as it wants. The United States can try and conceal as much damage as it wants. And again, Israel is slowly releasing some of the images and of the airplanes and some of the private airplanes. And again, if they're releasing these images now, imagine what else happened to their military bases. But they cannot conceal what's actually happening on the ground in terms of attacks, in terms of leaks, in terms of damage, let alone the global view on all of this, how the world views them. I mean, assuming Netanyahu's dead, and the more time goes by, the more reasons we have to believe that the man is probably no longer on this earth, the more likely that he's dead, the more likely that this whole situation is getting out of control and out of hands. And if it's getting out of control and out of hands now, then, well, Donald Trump is going to have to make a decision. Can he handle the damage? Or is he willing to risk it in the midterms? How far are they willing to go? For example, Israel has limits to how much damage it can sustain. They have elections coming in October. No one knows until when Iran is going to continue to attack. And by the way, Iran has made substantial damage to Israel, and Iran killed senior figures inside of the occupied state. And the fake videos that Netanyahu and Ben Gvir are posting every single day are just adding more fuel to the fire. So recently, I'm going to share an example with you. Itamar Ben Gvir, Netanyahu's, well, one of Netanyahu's closest allies. Let's have a look on not just how Netanyahu or the people behind him are hiding the fact that this man could have been gone, but how Itamar Ben Gvir is doing it too. Have a look at this recent video that was published on his account.
השר, ראיתי שהאיראנים אומרים שאתה מת.
אני מת להוציא מחבלים להורג. עונש מוות למחבלים.
And as we can see, as with Netanyahu's videos, all sorts of flaws and problems in this video. And they're always reiterating the fact that, the Iranians are saying that you're dead. It's as if they're trying too hard to disprove it. Oh, I heard the Iranians said that you're dead. The only thing that's gonna die is the capital punishment for the Palestinian prisoners, according to him in this video. And again, blurry, short, all sorts of problems. Is he one of the people who was also assassinated by Iran? Iran targeted multiple gatherings. And we're not talking about a country like Iran. These people don't have the same approach or view towards death. You're talking about mass murderers, child killers, earthly, completely. They don't want to die. And they don't want the country to go into chaos by saying that its leaders are getting killed, to entertain the idea of takeover, because people wanted to topple Netanyahu for a very long time. And if Netanyahu's gone, and if some of his main ministers are gone inside of Israel, that will give a momentum, because we're already seeing some vacuum happening there. Netanyahu isn't participating in any of these meetings. The only meeting that he participated in was an artificially generated one, another deep fake, based on pictures that he had from before. Iran is still hammering them every single day. So what are they going to do? The only way out of this is for one side to declare that that's it, we're done. Apart from that, there will be no solution. And this is the impact, where we're still having some videos coming out despite all of the censorship, from the damage of the Iranian missiles in the occupied state. Like, have a look at this video that was recently published. So that's the level of damage that we're seeing now in Israel, again, despite the censorship. The Iranian missiles are hammering them. They're unable to defend themselves. And the United States is now facing additional problems with the oil fields now, after their huge stupidity coming from them and Israel against Iran. So they don't have a way out. The only way out is going to come when one of them decides that's it. Iran is not going to be that side. It's only going to have to be Israel and the United States. Based on what they're doing now, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're seeing here a situation really where, of course, Iran is not going to back down. Iran still has a lot of cards. The resistance movement still have a lot of cards. Time is playing to its favor. Iran has the global humane support of all of the world. Everyone is seeing what's happening. The people who doubted Iran or who were too short-sighted with their judgment against Iran, or who were unable to view things from a strategic perspective, the people who did not necessarily see the wrongdoings of the other side when they disagreed with Iran, the people who can't view things from a wider lens, but they only see them from a bubble, a very tight bubble, are now starting to understand the weight of that country, the weight of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Iran is now fighting the most evil powers on earth in the form of the Epstein regime and the Zionist state. No one did that to the United States and Israel before. Everyone was telling us how these countries cannot be beaten, they cannot be targeted. We don't have enough power. You know, we're going to suffer if we do anything. Not now, we need to prepare for a longer time. Iran didn't necessarily want this now either, but it was imposed on it. But with this being imposed on Iran, this creates a strategic opportunity, not only for regional players, but for global players too. Regional players in West Asia, though, they have a historic opportunity now. They can actually capitalize on the situation to get rid of the American hegemony happening in that area. Because if they continue to be on that side, then inevitably this will lead to more elements of rebellion. I mean, many of these countries are being criticized for multiple things. And the fact that the United States was able to conduct these attacks against Iran from their territories. So there is a way out. The question is, will they take it? And from an Israeli-American perspective, should they fail, and it's likely that they would, drag any of the Arab states to a conflict where they would be deemed as a participant in the aggression against Iran directly. So we're no longer talking about bases. We're no longer talking about American assets. We're talking about every vital point of that country. And that's something, of course, they don't want. They're going to have to try and finish the job themselves. Today's attack was a massive attack against the largest gas field in the world, and a desperate move to try and deter Iran from continuing its response to them. In a way, it was telling them that we can do more if you continue to block the Strait of Hormuz and come and talk, because if not, we're going to escalate further. However, again, what they're not realizing is the mindset of Iran, the people's view. We're no longer talking about the establishment, by the way. It's the Iranian people, and whether they even had a problem with the establishment or not, whether they're like secular or not, they understand. I mean, even the Israelis are saying the Iranian people are going to hate us more now after we're targeting their vital energy infrastructure. So they have done the complete opposite of what they supposedly wanted, which is create a rebellion against the establishment. They brought the people together. They gave them a chance to continue and target them. They made sure that every Iranian and every person outside in the whole world understands who the real aggressors are. I mean, most of us, of course, most people already knew, 2.5 years of an ongoing genocide to this day, barbaric, brutal apartheid, 24/7, attack against multiple countries, those who pose and those who don't pose a supposed threat against them. And the United States and many Western establishments are supporting this. Of course, it was going to reach this stage. Lack of action and complicity from governments, people who were silent, and of course, many weren't. Lack of decisive enforcement measures coming from the international community. All of these things lead to this situation, everyone feeling the pain, which was what we were warning from the beginning. It could have been avoided, but it can't be avoided when one side is being slaughtered and the other side is just, discussing basic things and ignoring everything that's happening in the world and being silent about it. And that equation, by the way, is likely to add more fuel to the conflict that's happening between Iran and the United States and Israel as well. And whereas now they attacked, for example, the gas facilities, again, the largest gas field in the world, shows you how reckless they are, how careless they are about anyone in the world anyway, then they can say the oil, for example, or the nuclear program, again. Because recently they targeted a location near the Bushehr nuclear plant. Bushehr has Russian employees. Bushehr is jointly managed with Russia. Russia sent an official complaint to the IAEA. If they do that, what are the other countries going to do? Get in. And then you have World War III in front of you, as in immediately. Nukes, no nukes, well, the destruction is going to be very big if any other countries participate. And these were the main things that I want to share with you. I'll open the space up for some community participation. Thank you so much, everyone who sent supers. Much appreciated. Lau Kylie Mahmoud, should I start stocking up on supplies? I don't think this war is going to end anytime soon. Israel's Samsung option is increasing unlikely. I think with supplies, I think everyone should be, of course, moderate so that it doesn't impact people around them, wherever you are in the world. Because at the end of the day, the panic affects people who are in need. So I think people need to be conservative if they think of, stocking supplies. It's good to have, some basic stuff. If you're a person who has your own garden and you plant your own vegetables and, fruits and what have you, that's also great. But I think, people need to be reasonable. A good example was Japan, when they had that nuclear disaster and leak just over 15 years ago, maybe. And you'd go to the stores and nothing was empty. Unlike in COVID times, for example, if you were in the UK or any other country as well, you'd go to a shop and people are buying like toilet tissues. It's like, what are you worried about? Stocking up on toilet paper. And everything was empty. And listen, hopefully, hopefully logic will prevail. Maybe that pushed some common sense into some people that you can't have this aggressive, terrorist, barbaric approach the whole time. or it could escalate because the world is still run by psychopathic maniacs. And thank you everyone else who sent supers, much appreciated. And Yuchuk Para, thank you so much for your membership and welcome to the channel. And everyone else, if anyone has any questions, if you wouldn't mind highlighting them, by the way. Important question to me, how many fingers do I have? I'm not sure. I don't want to share my fingers so you don't suspect. Have you seen that picture of the people who put in feet instead of hands? There was so much nonsense going on after this. Kim Jong-un in a cafe in Jerusalem, and oof, it was insane. But that was 100%, a 100% fake video, I'm telling you. Facilitate any updates on Israel's ground invasion in Lebanon? Yeah, they're still trying to invade certain parts. They've had minor entries into some of the locations. And actually, talking about Israel's invasion in Lebanon, let's have a look. Like we were talking about Netanyahu, right? And the fake stuff going out. Like, have a look at this video.
Well, Mr. Prime Minister, I wanted you to know the president asked me to come and make sure you were okay.
Yes, Mike. Yes, I'm alive.
Well, Mr. Prime Minister.
Yeah, it wasn't his office who published that, though. Where was this video that I wanted to share with you? Oh, here it is. That's the IDF. Look at what they're doing in Lebanon. These are the chosen ones in Lebanon. Can you see how chosen and how moral their behavior is? With dead people and with people's homes. And Amanda, Michael, thank you so much. And Luai as well, thank you very much. Where were we? Okay, so that was... Okay, Mizu. What missiles hasn't Iran used yet, if we know? Well, they're using most of the missiles that we know of so far, unless they have missiles that we don't know of. So recently, for example, they used the Hajj Qasim missile against an American base. They're using their heavy missiles against Israel. They said that we're not sending Israel any missile under a 1-ton warhead. In essence, they're complying with the demands of the United States, you know. They said you need to get rid of all of your ballistic missiles. They're getting rid of them on Israel. Getting rid of the ballistic missiles on the head of the child murdering Zionist. That's what they're doing. emptying the stockpiles, you know, the older stockpiles. Gullyberg, thank you so much for this, my friend. You said, Mahmoud, is there a possibility that Yemen, Ansar Allah, will primarily focus on Saudi Arabia if the Saudis declare war on Iran, other than focusing on the Red Sea? I think that is a very, very smart observation, and that could be one of the reasons that they are delaying anything, because there's still more at stake here. Now, the Saudi government knows the pain that Ansarullah can inflict on them. They were at an aggressive, unjustified war against them for many years, and they faced a lot of repercussions for that. Now they're more armed, they're more trained, they're more capable and braver than ever, with the backing of their people, by the way. So they know that there are going to be a lot of vulnerabilities there, and they know that, well, that side, okay, is still active. So Saudi Arabia has oil ports on the eastern coast and on the western coast. On the eastern coast, Hormuz, that's it. On the western coast, it's still functional. And with Ansarullah's blockade against the genocide state, Saudi Arabia wasn't included in that. They were still freely moving and coming and normal. It was just against the US and Israel. Anyone tied in sending them anything. So absolutely, they could be used for that part, but they could also be used in case of bigger escalation against Iran too. That's why, you know, we constantly say that Iran still didn't really reveal everything. Kikimura, any increase in air traffic, military in the region? To be fair, I haven't been observing a lot of the monitoring lately. The United Kingdom said it deployed like 2 or 3 fighter jets to try and help intercept missiles coming from Iran to the region. The other countries are trying not to be in it whatsoever, because the United States is removing its assets from the region. So the majority of the movements that we're seeing so far are movements coming from the Epstein Zionist coalition and Iran on the other hand. And by the way, what they're doing in Jordan, they're flying at really low altitude. I mean, the Jordanian authorities are a real embarrassment. Not only are they intercepting missiles falling on the heads of Jordanian people, but they're allowing Israel and the Epstein coalition to conduct low-altitude flights. Fighter jets. Can you imagine the sonic booms and the vibe and the fact that to try and target the Iranian missiles, by the way, which indicates that what? They're running out of everything to do with their air defense systems, and Iran is capitalizing on it. And by the way, we still haven't seen probably the bigger level of damage that's about to happen. And now in Israel, therefore, so most countries, first to answer your question, are not trying to get involved at all, by the way. Fully reluctant. That's why Trump has been moaning about his allies to a level where he tried to ask China to help with the Hormuz Strait. I mean, can you get any more stupid than that? And Israel using fighter jets to try and intercept from Jordan proves how badly they're doing in terms of their air defense capabilities. Chosi, Olive Roots podcast, brother, how are you? If Bibi's dead, who's the president of the United States now? Satan. Satan took charge immediately. So Netanyahu was the deputy. Now a shaitan is in charge. But if Netanyahu is gone, again, even if you want to talk about the blackmailing and Epstein, that would be the system behind him. He's a guy who isn't necessarily everything to do with the country. And they would continue to try and get it the way they want to. And listen, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually don't know what to do because they didn't expect this. Dave, will Trump go to China and what does he expect to achieve? He won't go to China. He canceled the scheduled visit to China. The reports are saying that he delayed it because he's engaged in the war. Chances are it could have been China that actually canceled it. And they're not necessarily declaring it. So he's not going to go to China. And China's observing now. China is observing. Russia's observing. Russia's having a whale of a time. Trump lifted the sanctions. They're selling more oil, gas. They're having fun. So in essence, Trump is strengthening, right? The big enemies, the so-called big enemies. Ibn Lahad, what do you think of the Pahlavists? I think the Pahlavists are a bunch of delusional Zionists who have no real connection to humanity in general. I've seen some people celebrating the attacks on Iran. Now, if you want to call them Pahlavists or whatever it is, from my perspective, they are despicable Zionists who are celebrating the slaughter of the Iranian people. And I don't think they represent the majority of the Iranian people. You know, you've had some of these so-called Iranian opposition people thinking that they can be appealing to the West by saying, oh, look, we're against the Ayatollah regime, we want secularism, and we want, we're cute, accept us, love us. They thought that that's their ticket to be accepted, you know, by the West, instead of being themselves. And some of them go to such far lengths, by the way, to try and appeal to whoever it may be, by the way. Some of them have legitimate concerns, and I'm not talking about the Pahlavists now. We want to talk about it from a different perspective. Opposition. You're totally entitled to oppose the government or the establishment or how things run. But you care about your country and your people, and you understand that there are certain times where you need to be with your people and you need to be with your government, especially when you are facing an existential threat. So that's what I think. And anyone who raises the Israeli flag, you already told me the whole thing. Some of them even raise the IDF flags. So from my perspective, you can burn in hell with them. That's how I view them. But again, I don't think they represent a large chunk of the Iranian people. I mean, Pahlavi himself is a pathetic individual anyway. He is constantly trying to make himself to be like, you know, he is the alternative and he is going to lead Iran and acting like he can, you know, address the people of Iran. It's like, dude, who are you even? Who are you? It baffles me that people who haven't been in their country their whole life are telling their people back home what to do and what not to do, and celebrating an attack against their own country. dude, the shoes of any Iranian martyr are worth than his existence. What did he do for his country? Get paid to move from hotel to hotel to have press conferences and be a small rat for the Western intelligence agencies and the Mossad? Well, what did he do? Did nothing for his people. The Iranians who are doing something for the people are the Iranians who are doing something for the people now. And by the way, they're paying the price because they were doing something for the Palestinian people too. That's why this equation, you know, some people will tell you, oh no, we're against the regime in Iran and we support the people. The Mahdi Hassans and all sorts of opposition type people who will tell you, oh yeah, we're against the regime, and like they were condemning Hamas, right? But we're with the Palestinians. So evil is bad, but I don't support resisting it. You know, you start thinking, well, who do you serve then? Right? So these Pahlavis, and to be honest with you, their situation is becoming even more pathetic. Their situation is becoming even more pathetic with time. Because they can see the whole world is actually celebrating what Iran is doing. So that's their situation. The Octopan Mahmoud, why isn't the Lebanese military stepping in? Are they being attacked? They are being attacked. It's because the Lebanese military is subject to the orders of the Lebanese government. The head of the Lebanese army, actually, Rudolf Haikal, one of his first suggestions on how to act in case of an Israeli invasion, one of his first suggestions was to actually participate with Hezbollah in resisting Israel. Immediately as he said that, he was told off by that rat of theirs, the prime minister, who gets orders from a basic employee in the American embassy. No, and that would be considered suicide, and they wanted them to fight the Lebanese resistance. Imagine who these people serve. So if it wasn't for this political corrupt elite over there, funded by the United States and other countries, there would be a different situation. That's one of the biggest problems that we have, by the way, in some of these countries. Tree Saba just writing here, what is the footage of Satan in a bunker being bombed with others authentic? Ceiling caves on them, then the fire enters through hole, then smokes below in from everywhere. I don't know if it's real. It's not real. No, I saw that video. And unfortunately, some people are posting some fake videos about this incident, but it's not real. But that doesn't take away from the suspicion, by the way, that Netanyahu is missing. That isn't Netanyahu. That is not Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu is posting one fake video after one fake video through images and certain videos that he had before that are being reused to create new deepfakes time after time. So really and truly, the man, there's a very big likelihood that he is either killed or severely wounded. Okay, let's take a couple of more questions. No, that's it. Okay, that's all I can see here. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in for another live stream. We'll wrap it up here. I'll be with you with a couple of more videos as well, and coming period, of course. Tomorrow we'll have 1 or 2 live streams, maybe during the day. So keep an eye. Sometimes if you don't have your notifications on, please make sure you have them on so that you can see every video that is released. And consider subscribing to membership in the channel. That way you'll support the channel as well, help us reach more people as well. And visit our links in the description. And tomorrow, again, we will most likely be here at the same time in the evening. I'll post the link hopefully before. If it's going to be in the daytime, it could either be in the morning or in the afternoon. So we'll hopefully see you guys tomorrow. Again, thank you so much for everyone who sent supers, everyone who participated in the chat, all of the viewers, subscribers, everyone. Thank you so much. In the meantime, everyone, stay blessed, take care, and I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone. Salam. Right now, misinformation spreads faster than facts, especially on the most sensitive global stories. NVP uses uncensored AI analysis to verify the most controversial topics and separate signal from propaganda in real time. Instead of guessing who to trust, you can see structured verification and analysis behind every major issue.